Now that is how you play a regular season basketball game. Big round of applause for both teams. This was the game of the year so far. I was entertained throughout, and oh boy, I can't wait to talk about it. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. In today's video, I am, as I said before, going to be discussing last night's game between the Bucks and the Nets. However, before I get too far into it, I would like to remind you all to leave a like and subscribe. I've been appreciating all the support that I've been receiving lately, and I hope to see that continue. Now, without further ado, let's talk about the game. Now, I am a Bucks fan, as you can tell, but I'm not mad because this was one of the best games that we have seen all season so far. We had great performances from all of the All-Stars in this game. KD was great. Harden was great. Giannis was terrific. Chris Middleton was on fire down the stretch. Jrue Holiday was D'ing up on James Harden and Kevin Durant. What other player in the league is able to take on those difficult matchups against like two of the three best offensive players in the league in the same game? And they're two players that are so different, and Jrue was just locking them up whenever he was placed on them. Yeah, this was just a terrific game. So, I guess I'll calm down a little bit and talk about some of the finer points. I really was intrigued by the way the Nets decided to guard Giannis. Also, happy Martin Luther King Day to everyone. I probably should have started this video off by saying that, but I got carried away in my excitement. I get that it was yesterday, but I didn't say anything in my video from yesterday, so happy Martin Luther King Day. Perfect time to spotlight all of the racial inequality in our country. Black Lives Matter. Dr. King worked so hard for that, and we need to continue his work. So I just thought that I would say that real quick. But getting back to the game, the Nets had DeAndre Jordan as the primary Giannis defender. And when I say defender, it's more like defender, because they mostly just had him sitting in the paint, and there was nobody guarding Giannis. They were permitting him to take as many threes as he liked, and he did not decline to do that, especially in the early going, as he knocked down 2 threes. I believe both were in the first quarter. At the very least, both were in the first half. But I definitely found that to be intriguing, especially because in an honest defense, Kevin Durant is probably one of the best players you can have match up with Giannis. And I also was intrigued by what the Bucks did on the defensive end of the floor. They had Jrue Holiday as the primary Harden defender for large periods of time, with Chris Middleton as the primary KD defender, and Giannis was placed on Jeff Green, and he was kind of playing the rover role that he usually does as a weak side help defender who is able to be a weak side rim protector off the ball. And it ended up creating a lot of open looks for Jeff Green, as Jeff Green and Joe Harris were probably the reason why the Nets won this game. Like, KD was terrific. 30 points and 9 rebounds, 10 for 21 from the field, 8 for 9 from the free throw line. Harden was great as well. 34 points and 12 assists on 13 for 25 from the field, although he did have 6 turnovers. A little bit more on that later. I attribute that more to Jrue Holiday than I do to Harden. But Jeff Green and Joe Harris won this game for the Nets to me, because Harden and KD both got off to slow starts in the first half, and when they weren't really able to get going offensively, Jeff Green and Joe Harris were able to knock down the open looks that those two were creating for them. And that's really what the Nets needed in order for the offense to stay afloat until KD and James were able to start getting their shots to fall. Harris finished with 20 points and was 5 for 7 from the three-point line. Green had 14 points and was 4 for 5 from downtown. And this Nets team has really been on fire in both of the games that James Harden has played in the Brooklyn uniform so far. In the game against the Magic, they couldn't miss. And in tonight's game against the Bucks, once again, they shot over 50% from downtown. So I'll be intrigued to see what happens when this team cools down from beyond the arc. But the performances we saw tonight from Green and Harris as super reliable role players was certainly promising for this Nets team, and was a key reason why they were able to come away with the victory. I also think that people are going to overreact to the DeAndre Jordan game a little bit today. They're going to look at the stat line and see that he played a whopping 38 minutes of the game and finished with 12 points and 12 rebounds. I don't think he missed a shot, but something that's going to go overlooked is that he had 5 turnovers. It's a problem when he catches the ball at any time other than right under the basket to rise up for a dunk, because he ends up getting a bit too dribble happy, or in some cases stand there with the ball on his hip in the triple threat position and not doing anything happy, as we saw with that hysterical Andre Drummond play last week. But with DeAndre, he can't get so comfortable with the ball in his hands because he doesn't have great ball security. We saw a couple possessions where the Bucks were able to poke it away. He made a few clumsy passes, and that's hurting the Nets. And a large reason why the Bucks were able to stay in this game, despite the Nets shooting the absolute lights out of the ball tonight, was because of the turnovers. So that's something that the Nets are going to have to do better with. And, well, outside of James Harden, DeAndre Jordan was the main perpetrator when it came to the turnovers. I also think that a large reason why they turned the ball over so much was because of the defensive pressure put on by the Bucks guards in Jrue Holiday and Dante DiVincenzo. When I looked at the stat line and saw that Jrue had 0 steals for the game, I was blown away, because the amount of turnovers that he forced just by pestering James Harden with a full court pressure throughout the game was super effective. You could tell it was getting on James's nerves, and he started off by being a bit passive. I think that he only had 11 points in the first half and only had maybe 6 or 7 shot attempts. So I thought that Jrue was fantastic there. When he was switched on to KD, he held his own, kept a hand in KD's face, and did not allow him to get wide open looks that usually a 6'4 player would surrender to a 7-footer with the length that KD has. Jrue Holiday is an all-defensive player, and if he doesn't make that team this season, it's an absolute disgrace, and NBA voters really need to rethink their decisions, because this guy is so versatile, he's so skilled, and he's so impactful on the defensive end of the floor. So definitely a guy who belongs on an all-defensive team and probably should be getting some Defensive Player of the Year votes. On the offensive end, though, I was a bit more worried about the Bucks. Giannis ended up putting up a really great stat line with 34 points and 12 rebounds on 13 for 26 shooting. Also recovered from the atrocious 1 for 10 performance from the free throw line last game with a 6 for 8 night to tonight, obviously. And that was good to see him recover, but overall it didn't seem like he played that well, which is ridiculous to say when he had 34 and 12, but he missed a few easy shots inside. There were a few times where he settled for jump shots where it was like, come on, Giannis, we can get that at any point in the possession. Why are you taking it after 5 seconds? So the shot selection was a little bit iffy from him, and he should have finished those shots inside, but I mean, how many nits are you actually able to pick from a guy that put up 34 and 12. Middleton was also great tonight. I think this guy's a top 20 player, or at least he has been so far this season. Tonight he had 25 points on 10 for 20 shooting. He was 0 for 5 from the free three-point line, but that means he was 10 for 15 on twos. And I'm not sure that he took a shot inside the paint. So that means on mid-range jumpers, Chris Middleton shot like 66% tonight. That is remarkably efficient on what are always difficult shots. And his ability to hit those shots, difficulty and all, during clutch moments is just going to make this team so much more dangerous in the playoffs. He is the engine that makes this team go in the fourth quarter of close games, and for him to be knocking down those shots and looking so confident while he's doing it is very, very impressive. He's the closer for this team. Closer Chris, clutch Chris, whatever you want to call him. And he needs to continue to play like this, have that Mamba mentality down the line to just be aggressive and taking every shot that he can, because he can hit those difficult shots, and he proved it throughout the game tonight, proved it throughout the game on Friday night against the Mavericks. And he's really got to be the go-to guy in the fourth quarter because of that ability to hit difficult shots. Overall, like I said at the beginning of the video, this game was outstanding. One of the best games I've seen all year. With the Nets, it's going to be interesting to see what they look like with Kyrie Irving back, because I'm not really sure that it's going to help them out that much. Watching the game, I think that the ball was probably in Kevin Durant or James Harden's hands for about 80% of the time when the Nets run offense. So when Kyrie comes back, either he's going to be taking touches away from those guys or he's going to be an off the ball player who's standing around and spotting up for 3-pointers. I don't think that that's entirely all that likely, so he's probably going to be taking away touches from James and Kevin. And that's not really a good thing because those two are the two best offensive players I've seen in my time as an NBA fan. Steph Curry would like to object, but those two guys are absolutely dominant offensively. And I'm not really sure that Kyrie is going to make this team all that better. I will see. I'm not going to make that proclamation when we haven't even seen that tremendous trio play together on the court in a real game so far, but I have my reservations heading into that first matchup. With the Bucks, not too much that you can glean from this game long term that you weren't already thinking about this team. They're great in transition offensively. They're a pretty solid defensive team that's really going to limit what your star players can do. Honestly, like I said before, the Nets won this game because their role players hit their threes. If the Nets weren't hitting their threes, the Bucks would have won this game by about 8 or 10 points, in my opinion. So I don't think that this is a bad loss whatsoever for the Bucks. It's one of the 5 best teams in the league, and they just shot the lights out. So just a really impressive effort from both teams. I loved what I saw. I'd love to see these two teams face off in a Eastern Conference Finals matchup. And I think that I've covered everything that I wanted to cover. So that's going to be it for me. Ladies and gentlemen, I will see you all again very soon.